There's a lot of talk these days about upzoning cities in an effort to increase the quantity of affordable housing and densify neighborhoods, densify cities, make it so people can supposedly, one of the selling points is, oh, you'll be able to walk to your local shops or restaurants or grocery stores, bike, use urban transit, etc. Those are all sound nice, but what are the unseen costs of upzoning? Lots of cities are undertaking this. Some have, and some have really regretted it. I'm speaking about Austin in particular, and as I dive deeper into this topic, because this is major, right? Where we live is a big plays a big factor in our health and well-being, our happiness, etc. I've got an article here from arcdaily.com. I'll put the link in the description down below, and we're going to learn about upzoning, because if you live in a city of any considerable size, I guarantee you your city planners are talking about this, and you need to be aware of it and know what the issues are, because it is a complex issue as I dive deeper into this topic. But let's get into this and educate ourselves into what's going on here. The title is New York City Promises Affordability Through Rezoning but Delivers Gentrification. Written by Roberta Brandis Gratz. I hope I've said that name right. This article was originally published on Common Edge. Dozens of neighborhoods in New York City have been upzoned based on contrived and even false claims made by the city, which promised more diversity, affordable housing, minimum displacement, and other worthy goals, right? There's always a big promise of worthy, lofty ideals. None of those projections materialized, but this is never acknowledged. Worse, the upzoning created the opposite conditions: less diversity, fewer affordable units, and wider, wealthier neighborhoods. This, too, is never acknowledged, but the damage is done, and developers are having their way following the new zoning. You see, that's one of the downsides. Will this increase developer and investor activity in your neighborhood? And from what I've seen so far by studying this, it'll slice and dice your neighborhoods in a way that you cannot even comprehend, my friend. I really urge you to get involved in this topic, especially if it's going on in your city like it is in mine. I'm in it to win it. Like this is the hill that I will die on if need be. Then it's on to the next neighborhood with the same approach. Roberta Brandis Gratz explores in her article City Planning and City Promises in New York City, disclosing zoning regulations that lead to the opposite of what they preach. The official story promoted by the city about planning and development is really about gaslighting, convincing the world something is different from what it really is. Now comes the proposed upzoning of Soho and NoHo. This proposal is a textbook example of the city at its most disingenuous. The Soho-NoHo scheme is based on the same false assumptions and untruths. In good gaslighting tradition, for example, the city doesn't reveal that the Soho-NoHo zoning district includes part of Chinatown and will impact even more of that neighborhood. In the argument for diversity, it won't tell us that 40% of the current neighborhood is already non-white, including 28.4% Asian. The city claims that there will be little or no displacement, but it's not telling us that 635 rent-stabilized units in 105 buildings within the rezoning district have been identified as threatened by displacement. These units are disproportionately occupied by Chinese and Chinese American residents, and due to their scale, are most likely to be demolished. It won't tell you that the Chu family, a Chinatown developer, lies in wait. It also won't tell you that a substantial number of residents with low to no moderate income already reside in the neighborhood and will likely be the first ones to be displaced. Well, isn't that interesting? Kind of makes you think that the city might be colluding or working with developers in order to push these people out and generate more revenue. You know, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would have a hard time not believing that were the case. We've got a quote here, maybe something we read earlier, but let's read it anyway. The proposed upzoning of Soho-NoHo is a textbook example of the city at its most disingenuous. Yes, the scheme is based on the same false assumptions and untruths. All right, let's keep reading here. In fact, a study commissioned by the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation contradicts in clear statistical and pie chart fashion all of the unsupported claims made by the city about the zoning district. The report is aptly titled Upzoning Soho and NoHo, Why the City's Rezoning Plan Will Decrease Socioeconomic Diversity and Reduce Net Affordable Housing. Another less publicized report, commissioned by the Municipal Arts Society, A Tale of Two Rezonings, taking a closer look at CEQR, studied two already upzoned neighborhoods and came to the same damning conclusions. Well, isn't that interesting? Why are you not hearing that? Why are you and I not hearing that from our government? Something to think about. According to MAS, the two neighborhoods, Long Island City and downtown Brooklyn, are now whiter, wealthier, and more crowded than ever. The report notes that the expected boom in commercial development never happened. Instead, these neighborhoods were transformed by an explosion of high-end, high-rise residential development. At the same time, the local public schools have been overrun. Sounds like a problem to me. Sounds like more collateral damage to me. By the way, we're still picking up the pieces of the collateral damage from the last solution that our government implied upon us. 1 in 3 teenage girls contemplate. Households divided. Friends and family divided. Economic impact from the last 3 years. You know, this and social distancing and other solutions. Yeah, we're picking up the pieces, and we may never be able to fully understand the ramifications of what happened. All right, let's see what we have here. Sadly, the city never looks back and says, oops, it didn't happen the way we said it would, so maybe we shouldn't make the same promises in the next neighborhood. Those unacknowledged facts have no impact whatsoever on the next set of false promises. In fact, the city promotes and the press perpetuates the idea that this upzoning is meant to democratize and diversify the Soho and NoHo neighborhoods. The one-time manufacturing buildings converted to artists' housing and then high-end apartments are included in the larger zoning district. But they're the convenient visual front for a larger deceptive story that in the end will result in whiter, richer neighborhoods, just like downtown Brooklyn and Long Island City. Similar studies would probably show the same thing in other upzoned neighborhoods, but no one is footing the bill to study them, and certainly the city does not want to assist them in that research. The Greenwich Village Preservation Society report outlines numerous flaws in the city's environmental impact statement, as well as the vast discrepancies between the promised change and current reality. New developments under the city plan would have a much higher share of highest income earners as compared to the current neighborhood, as a much lower share of the lowest income earners, and none of the nearly 20% of the neighborhood which currently earns under $32,000. These circumstances have been true in other upzoned neighborhoods because the scale of the allowed new buildings is so huge. The number of high-end apartments so plentiful, and the promised new affordable housing is never as affordable as the housing that is lost. Imagine that. Imagine that. Government getting it wrong from an economic and market standpoint. Oh, I'm shocked. Not. According to the report, 47.3% of the current neighborhood earns $0 to $99,999 under the city plan. Under the city plan, 25% of the new residents will earn $32,000 to $98,000. At the same time, 25.9% of the current neighborhood earns $200,000 and above. Under the city plan, 75% of the residents will earn $1 million and above. Quote, it's such an outrageous lie claiming that upzoning will help solve the housing crisis that it's difficult to believe the city can keep repeating it with a straight face. Wow. The city assumes no development will take place on any site currently containing rent-regulated housing, and no low or moderate income residents will be displaced. Right? They always say, best case scenario, they always try to sell that, but as we've seen time and time again, there are multiple factors that they fail to think about and or consider in their planning process. It's very sketch, to say the least. And we wonder why 65% of people are skeptical of government, according to a recent Pew Research study. We wonder. Keep your eyes on the ball, my friends. This is a very intense time in America. I hope you're paying attention. Stay in the game. Don't Don't give up the good fight. Expose these lies and deceptions for what they are. Let's continue here. This is simply not based on reality or born out of the facts. The city also excludes from their projections the possibility of housing with rent-regulated units or houses of worship, private schools, or other institutions from being demolished and redeveloped, even though we see this happen time and time again. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't like existing structures that are perfectly viable and have life in them to be torn down and thrown into the landfill for a new structure to be put in. That is, in many cases, not as visually appealing, doesn't have the heart and soul of some older buildings. The craftsmanship in many cases is going down as you incentivize investors and developers to turn and burn and basically squeeze as much as they can out of these neighborhoods and the homes and the buildings they put in them, because they don't have to live there. They don't have to see those eyesores, but we do. You and I do. Its assumptions have been wrong in virtually every upzone neighborhood throughout the city, and as a result, we've lost thousands of rent-regulated and non-regulated affordable housing units. It's such an outrageous lie claiming that upzoning will help solve the housing crisis that it's difficult to believe the city can keep repeating it with a straight face. The real estate community is delighted, of course, with the increasing loss of rent-stabilized apartments. See, there's winners and losers, and the losers are always the homeowners and the renters, right? The politics of upzoning and the pull of real estate money is so strong that even city council representatives who would be expected to sympathize with the community are swept up in one falsehood after another. It is also hypocritical. Take, for example, the constant promotion of affordable or low-cost housing. The city is officially all for it. So is the civic community and the press. Yet the quickest two ways to achieve big numbers of low-rent housing over the largest geographic area of the city would be to legalize and financially assist in the development of basement apartments or secondary units in the backyards of single-family neighborhoods. More than 100,000 units, some estimate 200,000, could emerge from a zoning and financial plan. See, that's what I'm finding, is that many people are starting to realize that when you put this all on zoning, you're asking a lot. And that is typical of government. Let's press one button, let's pull one lever, and it'll do 5 things, right? Either they're not very bright, or worse. There's no other option, right? Incompetence or corruption. That's the only spectrum. You cannot have situations like this continuing to happen time and time again and it be an oops kind of a moment. Either they don't have the information, or they're not competent to take care of the job, or they're corrupt. I don't know. There's no other option. Let's see here. But there is nothing in it for developers who would rather claim the financial incentives that come with new construction, even when it replaces or pushes out existing and more honestly affordable units. To be sure, nothing in this initiative involves developers. Instead, the benefits, financial and otherwise, would accrue to homeowners. And that is in the zoning and financial plan, right? I mean, if you incentivize homeowners, and developers are going to be pissed. And who has a bunch of money? Developers and investors, right? In investing in apartments that are, high density, that they can rent out for big dollars, right? It's a win-win for them. It's a boom for them. Let's see here. In the rush to upzone neighborhoods all over town during the Bloomberg administration, single-family neighborhoods, fearful of what developers would do or who might move in, or of losing on-street parking spaces, were downzoned to prevent gentle, gradual, effective change. No one hears much about these truly not in my backyard neighborhoods. Instead, whenever there is a proposal of any kind that intrudes on a historic district or affects an as yet undesignated historic district, it is always the preservationists who are accused of resisting needed change. Preservationists are the most popular whipping boy, but Soho and NoHo, great designated districts have undergone enormous change in recent years. Even with designated status, the neighborhoods are filled with new buildings, taller and more modern than older structures. When I served on the Landmarks Preservation Commission, I voted for those new buildings that appropriately added a contemporary layer to the historically rich area. But those buildings stayed within the context of the existing community, something this new zoning proposal flauntingly does not. There are probably more than 40 new buildings in these two designated historic districts, but they do not impair the essential historic nature. This is the kind of appropriate change that adds a new layer of history without destroying old while retaining existing diversity, right? We have to be very careful going into these neighborhoods, and you want to never empower or stack the deck in the hands of developers and investors, because like I said earlier, they're looking for maximum return on profit, right? Some of them do well, some of them do right by the neighborhoods, but is that really a chance you want to take by upzoning or voting for upzoning in your city or state? Because there's a big buffer, there's a big vague area, right? And it leaves a lot up to these developers. It's not something not a chance I want to take. You're going to roll the dice and make sure you get a thoughtful developer with a good eye for design and really cares about the fabric of the neighborhood. That's a big gamble, not one I'm willing to take. Let's see here. The new zoning plan will make a mockery of this equitable pattern. Edison Parking, for example, a big de Blasio contributor, owns the two largest empty lots in the proposed upzoning district. One site at Great Jones and Lafayette would allow a FAR of 200 feet. I'm not sure what that acronym means. The highest allowable in the state. Maybe that's the height. If the purchase of nearby air rights is added, Soho could have its very own super tall. The second site in NoHo at the edge of Chinatown, Baxter and Center Streets, would allow a 9.7 FAR, which with accumulated air rights would overshadow Chinatown and have a negative impact on that largely affordable neighborhood. The city promises a height limit, but given the false and distorted premises of the Soho NoHo Chinatown rezoning proposal, can we really expect a reasonable solution? Excellent article. Please share this video with anyone you know who is fighting some upzoning battles. You know, we've got to learn about this. Where we live plays a major role in our happiness and well-being and affordability for homes. And oftentimes, what I'm finding, we are not getting the full story from governments. Thank you for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe for more videos like this, exposing corruption and evildoers in our country that are trying to shake up America in a bad way. So, thanks so much. Have an awesome day. Until next time, all the best, health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.